Hey YouTube, Mike Dart here, and today I'm going to be showing you my process of resoldering a connector, specifically a T-style Dean's connector to an XT60 connector on a LiPo battery. Now why go through all the pain with resoldering and soldering? The answer is quite simple, preference. When you start flying a lot, you start recognizing the connector that you like the most. In this case, throughout the years, I started to catch on the XT60s, and so ever since that's been my kind of connector of choice. So I'm going to take this battery with the connector that I don't want to use, which in this case is the T-style Dean's, and switcheroo with an XT60. Some tools might come in handy, such as some scissors, pliers, electrical tape. It'd be good if you had a soldering iron as well. You need some heat shrink tubing, and of course you need some of your solder. The very first thing that you're going to do is cut the leads off. I started with the negative lead. Just a safety precaution, don't cut both at the same time or else you are going to hurt both the battery and yourself. And once you've cut one of the leads, you want to remove any excess material, in this case the old heat shrink tubing. The next step is to cut 5 to 10 millimeters off of the wire insulator. I would say that 5 millimeters is just enough. Once you've cut the proper amount of insulator off, you then want to start twisting it so that it is all together and ready for pre-soldering. It is a very good idea to pre-solder as it ensures a very good connection between the two components that you're trying to solder. As shown in the video, I'm simply adding and melting some solder onto the wire. This is also known as tinning. To enhance your pre-soldering, make sure that the solder is evenly distributed around the wire. Once you're happy with your pre-soldering work, you want to slip approximately 20 millimeters of heat shrink tubing onto the wire. Just another word of warning, this XT60 connector does get very hot during the soldering process. So it's a good idea to have something to be able to hold it. In this case, I'm using a pair of pliers. Once your XT60 connector is stabilized, you then want to insert a piece of solder into the corresponding hole and simply melt it in. Make sure that you are soldering the negative, not the positive side of the connector. Again, the connectors get fairly warm after soldering. Now at this point I inserted the other side of the connector so that it still maintains its shape after the process of soldering. It's finally time to put the two together, and this is quite simple. You want to melt the solder that's on the XT60 connector and slide the wire into the correct port. Make sure that negative corresponds with negative. At this point you can take the connector out of the pliers and let it cool for a couple of seconds. The next step is to shrink the tubing, and as you could see in the video, I used a lighter to do so. And as you could see, we have successfully soldered the negative lead onto the XT60 connector. And now it's time to repeat the exact same process for the other lead. Also, if you have the other side of the XT60 connected, now is a good time to remove it. There you go. That's how you solder a connector onto your LiPo battery. I'm fairly happy with the results as well. I hope that this video was fairly helpful, and I hope to see you in the next video.